Welcome to Mrs. Feighery's Honors U.S. History 2, video number 4 of Chapter 27, Empire and Expansion. 6 months later, a murderer shot and killed William McKinley, making Theodore Roosevelt the youngest president ever at age 42. Teddy Roosevelt promised to carry out McKinley's policies. He was a barrel-chested man with a short temper, large glasses, and a stubborn mentality, and he always thought that he was right. Born into a rich family and graduated from Harvard, his motto was, speak softly and carry a big stick, or basically, let your actions do the talking. He believed that a president should lead, which would explain the precedents that he would set during his term, becoming known as the first modern president. Teddy Roosevelt had traveled to Europe and knew more about foreign affairs than most of his predecessors. One foreign affair that he knew needed to be dealt with was the creation of a canal through the Central American Isthmus. During the Spanish-American War, the battleship USS Oregon had been forced to steam all the way around the tip of South America to join the fleet in Cuba, seen here in this animation. A waterway would also make defense of the recent island acquisitions easier, such as the Philippines, Puerto Rico, Guam, and Hawaii. However, the 1850 Clayton-Bulwer Treaty with Britain had forbade the construction by either country of a canal in the Americas without the other's consent and help. A Nicaraguan route was the one possible place for a canal, but it was opposed by the old French Canal Company that was eager to build in Panama. Their leader was Philippe Bunau Varela. The U.S. finally chose Panama after Mount Pelée erupted and killed 30,000 people. The U.S. negotiated a deal that would buy a 6-mile wide strip of land in Panama for $10 million and a $250,000 annual payment. But this treaty was retracted by the Colombian government, which owned Panama. Teddy Roosevelt was furious, since he wanted construction of the canal to begin before the 1904 campaign. He decided to take action. On November 3, 1903, another revolution in Panama began with the killing of a Chinese civilian and a donkey. When Colombia tried to stop it, the U.S., citing an 1846 treaty with Colombia, wouldn't let the Colombian fleet through. Panama was thus recognized by the United States, and 15 days later, the Panamanian minister, despite his French nationality, signed the Hay-Bunau Varela Treaty that gave a widened 6 by 10 mile Panamanian zone to the U.S. for $15 million. Teddy Roosevelt didn't actively plot to tear Panama away from Colombia, but it seemed like it to the public and to Latin America. In 1904, construction began on the Panama Canal, but at first, problems with landslides and sanitation occurred. Colonel George Washington Goethals finally organized the workers, while Colonel William Gorgas exterminated yellow fever. When Teddy Roosevelt visited Panama in 1906, he was the first U.S. president to leave America for foreign soil. The canal was finally finished and opened in 1914 at a cost of $400 million. And a map of the Panama Canal can be seen here. Latin American nations like Venezuela and the Dominican Republic were having a hard time paying their debts to their European debtors, so Britain and Germany decided to send a bit of force to South America to make the Latinos pay. Teddy Roosevelt feared that if European powers interfered in the Americas to collect debts, they might then stay in Latin America, which would have been a blatant violation of the Monroe Doctrine. He issued his Roosevelt Corollary, which stated that in future cases of debt problems, the U.S. would take over and handle any intervention in Latin America on behalf of Europe, thus keeping Europe away and the Monroe Doctrine intact. It said, in effect, that no one could bully Latin America except the United States. However, this corollary didn't bear too well with Latin America, whose countries once again felt that Uncle Sam was being overbearing. When U.S. Marines landed in Cuba to bring back order to the island in 1906, this seemed like an extension of the bad neighbor policy. In 1904, Japan attacked Russia, and since Russia had been in Manchuria and proceeded to administer a series of humiliating victories until the Japanese began to run short on men, they approached Theodore Roosevelt to facilitate a peace treaty. At Portsmouth, New Hampshire, in 1905, Roosevelt negotiated a deal in which Japan got half of Sakhalin, but no indemnity for its losses. For this, his mediation of North African disputes in 1906 through an international conference, Teddy Roosevelt received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1906. However, due to the Russo-Japanese incident, America lost 2 allies in Russia and Japan, neither of which felt that it had received its fair share of the winnings. After the war, many Japanese immigrants poured into California, and fears of a yellow peril arose again. The showdown came in 1906 after the San Francisco earthquake, when the city decreed that due to a lack of space, Chinese, Japanese, and Korean children should attend a special school. Instantly, this became an international issue, but Roosevelt settled it eventually. San Francisco would not displace students, while Japan would keep its laborers in Japan. To impress the Japanese, Roosevelt sent his entire battleship fleet, the Great White Fleet, around the world for a tour, and it received tremendous salutes in Latin America, New Zealand, Hawaii, Australia, and Japan, helping to relieve tensions. The Root-Takahira Agreement pledged the U.S. and Japan to respect each other's territorial possessions in the Pacific and to uphold the open-door policy in China. This is the works cited page for this video. All images used from the video are in the public domain.